What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming here, and I want to talk about something that crossed my mind a little while ago, and it relates to the future, because we all know next gen is coming, and it's most likely coming at the end of 2020. So we got about a year and a half or so, give or take, before we start seeing proper, real next gen hardware. I say proper, real next gen hardware because technically the Switch is a 9th generation console, despite it being vastly underpowered compared to the other competition's 8th generation hardware. But it brings up an important thing, something that it really came to light when I was on my Xbox One X earlier today for the first time in ages. Of course, naturally, I wasn't playing an Xbox One game because there are none, but I was playing some backwards compatible stuff, and it got me thinking about the competition, like Sony, for example, and their plans going forward. Same with Microsoft and their plans going forward, but it also brought it to the Switch, because I've been playing a lot of Fire Emblem Heroes, not Fire Emblem Heroes, Fire Emblem Three Houses. I've never actually played Fire Emblem Heroes. I don't know how I managed to pull that one out. But I've been playing a shitload of Fire Emblem Heroes. And it made me think of one big important thing. Are Nintendo going to be left behind again? Now, you're probably already asking, what do you mean, Q, again? Well, Nintendo have historically been left behind by so many different reasons. They're already behind in the current era. They're behind on so many things, such as hardware. They're behind on many other things like third-party support and library, online services, visuals, performance, competent design of a controller, competent manufacturing processes of said controller, and even other hardware like the console itself. The list goes on, but what I'm talking about in this situation is something completely different. I'm wondering, with the advent of next-gen consoles and what we've seen in this generation when it comes to Xbox One and PS4, what are we looking about when it comes to next-gen and backwards compatibility? Now, this has been a bit of a big issue for many people and many different platforms out there. For example, it was vastly hailed when Microsoft added backwards compatibility to Xbox One. Originally, they only announced 360 games, and then they added more and more and more and more, and now there's several hundred, probably just shy of 1,000. I think the list is just over 600 actually, now that I think about it, of backwards compatible games. And that's from games ranging from big AAA disc-based games from the Xbox 360, small arcade or digital only games on the 360 as well, and even physical and digital versions of proper full retail games from the OG Xbox 180. And not only that, but some of these have been patched to take advantage of the extra hardware in Xbox One and Xbox One X for better frame rates, better resolution, yada yada yada. And we all know that going forward with the Project Scarlet or Xbox 2.4, whatever it turns out to be called, it's going to have backwards compatibility. In fact, the reason that Microsoft have ceased their backwards compatibility on Xbox One is so that they can have everything ready and available to run properly on Project Scarlet. So that will allow them to bring over all the OG Xbox games that are currently backwards compatible, the same with all the different 360 games, as well as whatever it is on Xbox One. So all that stuff is going to go forward and work for you properly with no additional cost, adding true backwards compatibility to existing stuff that you already own, physical or digital. It's somewhat the same with the PlayStation 4. PlayStation 5 has already been confirmed to have backwards compatibility with PlayStation 4 games. Now, this is obviously mainly focusing on disc-based games, or even just any game that's available retail and also available digitally that way. I'm going to assume that it also includes stuff that is only digital, like say Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, when you look at say stuff on the PlayStation Network, because they are technically in that era native PS4 games. So I'm going to assume that going forward onto the PlayStation 5, stuff like that is going to work properly, natively, backwards compatible on the PS5. Now we all know that the PS4 doesn't have proper backwards compatibility. Hell, it arguably doesn't have it at all, because it doesn't play PS1 games. It plays very, very, very select PS2 games which you have to re-buy, and there's no PS3 support whatsoever. But either way, it's an improvement in a sense that there is something happening with the future of the PlayStation, with the future of what Sony are offering and the PS5. So as it stands, Microsoft, Project Scarlet, Xbox 2.4 will have all existing backwards compatibility with the 3 existing Xbox platforms. PlayStation 5 will have backwards compatibility with just the PS4. It's a pretty big library of games, but it's a start. Now this brings us to the Switch. The Switch already has no backwards compatibility whatsoever because it moved away back to the little game cards, completely away from optical media, say the Wii U and the Blu-ray discs that they used. But historically, Nintendo has been very bad with backwards compatibility the last couple of generations. When you look at the Wii to the Wii U, technically there was some semblance of backwards compatibility there because you could transfer your account over, re-download all your stuff, or just transfer it over on an SD card, and you could go into Wii mode and play your stuff there properly. I would kind of consider that backwards compatibility because you can do it all for free, no additional cost, no additional extra anything really. But of course, if you wanted to bring them forward to the Wii U and avail of all the benefits and bonuses afforded within, which is basically nothing because it's a Wii U, the only console worse than the Xbox One, you would have to pay an additional fee. Now that fee was very small. I believe it was €1.50, I think it was, if the game was also available, if you had it registered to your Wii account and it was also available on Wii U. Now this of course brought up many problems across the Wii U and 3DS with the whole unified account system, with having no benefit of a unified account system. Again, another system where Nintendo is sorely lacking behind everyone else. But again, none of this transfers over to the Switch. They got rid of the Virtual Console completely, something that many people are outraged over, justifiably so in my opinion, and it's been replaced by that absolutely fucking awful system that is the NES online subscription service. The one that is so bad, even the fanboys have lost the heart to defend it nowadays. So with no backwards compatibility whatsoever, what does this mean going forward? Now, of course, we're not going to see a sequel or successor to the Switch for a couple of years at this point, probably 4 or 5 years by now. But will Nintendo be the only one left behind yet again, this time when it comes to backwards compatibility? It is entirely possible that the whole Switch online subscription service could just become some sort of Nintendo online subscription service and just transfer over to the next console. But those are small emulated digital Wii games. Not even digital Wii games, digital NES games. Possibly, by some miracle in the future, they could even be SNES games. I wouldn't count on it given Nintendo's backtracking when it was originally announced to have SNES games, and then all mention of SNES was ever removed. But because of the architecture in Xbox One and PS4, and in basically the way they're going to work with the Xbox 2.4 and the PS5, is that an option? Is there an architectural option when it comes to the sequel and successor to the Switch? There are existing better versions of the Tegra chips. There's the X2, and there's another one, I believe it's called Xavier. There might even be a third one above it and beyond there. But are Nintendo going to stick with the Switch game cards? Is it going to use the same physical media going forward, or will it support it going forward? For all we know, they could switch over to, see what they did there, switch over. They could switch over to a proper home console for their next one that uses Blu-ray discs. Will it have a little port, a little connection or whatever, or maybe an add-on that will allow you to pop your Switch game cards in to transfer over your stuff digitally that you've already paid for? Or will it be trapped, useless, on the Switch forever? We'll have to see how it goes because, well, it's interesting. The fact that Microsoft have kind of pioneered it in this sense, this generation. They brought all that back when backwards compatibility was phasing out, if you will, and people were just starting to give up on it. Microsoft brought it back with a big bang. PlayStation have kind of jumped on the bandwagon and kind of got in there with the PS5. Sure, it's not as extensive as what Microsoft are doing. But then you have the Switch, which is just out there by itself, fumbling around and just kind of tripping over its own shoelaces, in stereotypical Nintendo fashion. But anyway, what's the deal? What do you think is going to be the whole situation going forward with the next gen from Nintendo? Are they going to be left behind yet again? I probably believe so. Their track record over the last 25 years or so, basically anything since the Super Nintendo, makes me have complete, justifiably absolute faith that they're going to fuck it all up and screw the consumer next time as well. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. hit the appropriate button to let me know how I did on the video, and while you're at it, why not head on over and hit the subscribe button and even ring the little notification bell. Granted, getting a notification from YouTube in current year about a new video upload or a live stream or whatever is a whole other story, but hey, at least you can say you tried, am I right? As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.